Can everybody hear me fine? All right. I was a bit of a guinea pig on the first event. Imagine a cold church. That's where we were. Made me think that probably the very first pilot project was called Confessions on Stage. But then would VCs be able, and would their egos be able to deal with all of these confessions, right? So I think at some point Arjan figured out, hey, I put my deposit already down on the church, I gotta do something with the event. Why don't we play to the ego of the VCs and put them on stage? See if they make a lasting impression. And the thing is, over the years we learned that appearances and making that lasting impression doesn't really count too much. It's not really a huge correlation between that and some of the best entrepreneurs we had the fortune to work with. And so we noticed that some of these entrepreneurs that we worked with, some of the best of them also don't really care too much about the concept of the 5-minute elevator pitch. One of them is a guy called Will. He's the CEO and founder of Deliveroo. When I met him, he was wearing short trousers. That wasn't really meant to leave any kind of lasting impression. And at some point when he was starting up many cities in Europe, I remember meeting him in Amsterdam, where just for one day he showed up with a giant suitcase. The kind of suitcase where you could put a body in if you want to. It was a bit suspicious. It felt empty. Didn't know what he was going to do with it. Was he going to try to take a Dutch citizen, somehow dissect, analyze it in a new way of looking at the customer? No, of course not. But what I'm trying to say is that we were fortunate so far to work with a few founders, including Deliveroo, who I think represents the type of largest ticket we would ever do, which is around 8 to 9 million that we have invested so far. But I think in a case like Deliveroo, it's a company that already was well on its way. Already some great VCs on board. I think our sweet spot is actually Series A. It's the type of company where we can every now and then add something useful, bring something to the table. And one case study would be a company like Ram Games. It's a founder who was a shepherd until the age of 16, living in Turkey. And a bit of a maverick, we helped him to set up the company, and I think we probably built most of the initial team around there. Some people would call it a studio effort, or a bit of an accelerator. It's probably more than what we love to do, but I think in those cases they give the greatest satisfaction. We really helped to bring some of the team together. Again, with a founder not caring too much about appearances. So what do we care about? Well, for one, brutal honesty. I think if you work with an investor for many years, 7, 8, 9 years, it's about having these discussions that are a bit uncomfortable at times. At some point, you want to have a discussion about your co-founder. Is the co-founder still fit to be in the company? We're all in this room very data-driven, focused on CAC over LTV and cohorts and retention. But some of the hardest part of building a business is dealing with the soft, the intangible. And so I think we pride ourselves in being in many situations where we bring some of these taboos, some of these hard to talk about truths to the surface. And most of the time we fail entirely in analysis, but we think it's our job to actually go there, show a level of vulnerability, and together try to see if we could build the team that you need to take it to the next stage. So we very much care about a level of brutal, it doesn't have to be brutal, but at least a level of honesty, trying to become honest with ourselves, trying to get the founder to become honest with him or herself. What else do we care about? I think, for one, we think that today in Europe, there's still an ecosystem that doesn't have all of the reputational mechanisms in place that you see in more mature ecosystems, like the US. And this is about founder-first culture. There's still a few too many investors in our ecosystem who think that they can get away with some strong arm behavior, as they call it, And we think that's something at Hummingbird where we spent many years being in situations where we could have taken advantage, where at times, I suppose, we could have gotten a better deal. But we feel that in the end, it's about building a level of reputation and seeing our entrepreneurs as ambassadors also for Hummingbird. So it's very much about supporting an ecosystem and supporting entrepreneurs, and very much from a founder-first spirit. We do believe that it's founders who build great companies, and this idea of bringing lots of CEOs and so-called professional managers in is not what we saw to be the recipe for success. Having said that, I think probably for now, these are a few things we care about. Love to talk to you about some of the things you care about. And so I want to thank you, and on to the next speaker. Thank you.